This is Adele with RideClean. Today we're going to go ahead and learn how to create the daily reports we send to ReachNow stakeholders in regards to the tasks that we complete on any given day for the following markets: Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. As you are all aware, we go ahead and use a WUFU form called the BMW ReachNow Fleet Management Tracker to have our fleet agents record their completed work orders. On the back end, WUFU is going ahead and archiving those entries for our review at any point in time. So we are going to go ahead and log into our WUFU account, wufu.com, log in. Our email address is hr@rideclean.com. You will enter the password associated to the account, log in. Here is the form. We're going to go ahead and navigate to entries, all entries. As you can see on the bottom half of the screen, these are the actual entries, or at least the first columns of those entries, that is. We're going to go ahead and click the hyperlink bulk actions and the export button. As you can see, a modal comes up. You are going to go ahead and click Excel because that is the format that we'll be able to manipulate as far as the data is concerned. So let's click. It will go ahead and download into your downloads folder in just a second, and if you are using Chrome, it will appear on the bottom portion of your screen. So let's go ahead and click. And this file is not corrupted or unsafe, so we're going to go ahead and bypass this message by clicking yes. Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and close out of this. And before we begin any kind of work, we do need to go ahead and get rid of this protected view by clicking the button Enable Editing. Wonderful. Okay, as you saw, we went ahead and downloaded all the entries. So let's go ahead and if this was the end of the workday, June 20th, we would go ahead and delete anything prior to June 20th because the daily reports are that. They are daily. So what I do is I navigate to the right, and WUFU actually captures the date the form was created. So I'm just going to go ahead and scroll until I hit 6-20. Great, okay. So as you can see in the formula bar, we have now navigated to our first entry of June 20th, which is today's date, and the one above it is, as you can see, 6/19. So we've navigated to now 6/19, or the last entry for June 19th. We're going to scroll to the left, and we're going to go ahead and highlight these particular rows all the way up to the first row, which is the headers for the columns. And we're going to go ahead and delete. Okay, so this is the data set that we are working with. As you can see, since Seattle and Portland do in fact use the same WUFU form, all the entries are going to be mixed and appear in real time. So we're going to go ahead and hit data. We're going to go to sort. Okay, and then here we're going to go ahead and sort by your market, which is select your market. We're going to hit OK, and as you can see, it went ahead and sorted select your market column, which is column B, Portland first, and then Seattle. All right, so now that we went ahead and did this, we have to make sure that we are only submitting to the client work orders that were actually completed. So WUFU actually records any and all activity that appears on this public WUFU form. For instance, this particular user, let's go ahead and take a look. Troy Williams from Portland entered this plate number at or around 9:40 a.m., but then went ahead and stopped filling out the form. So as you can see, the completion status can only be 0 or 1. 1 is if they made it through all 4 pages and went to the confirmation page, which is the 4th page, or 0, meaning they went either to page 1, page 2, page 3, but never made it to page 4. As you can see in this example, they went ahead and never made it past the first screen. So we are going to go ahead and filter down to all these zeros. And the way to make it a lot simpler to filter as opposed to looking through all of this with the naked eye, is clicking any particular column header, holding down Shift Control L. That will automatically, as you can see, add filters to the top of each column that actually has a value in it. And the filters are these little carrots. Without knowing that shortcut, you can also navigate to the ribbon, Data, and then actually click on the filter button. But we did go ahead and use the shortcut. So let's take a quick gander. So let's scroll back to the right. Let's go ahead and filter just to the zeros. Okay, and we already looked at this particular entry. Now let's look at this entry. So the last page that this particular user, let's see who it is, David Richards in Seattle, at around 8:55 in the morning, submitted a lost and found work order, but never made it, stated it was completed, but never made it to the final fourth page as far as confirmation is concerned. So now we're in a little bit of a predicament. Do we go ahead and delete this or count as a work order even though they didn't complete the WUFU form through completion? So the easiest way to really see is, let's see if, this particular plate number appears multiple times. It looks like he did multiple things on this vehicle. He relocated the vehicle because it was illegally parked in a tow risk. He also added air, and he finally found a lost and found items. I'm going to go ahead and chalk it up to user error, but that he did go ahead and complete the work, especially since he found one pair of sunglasses and he does have a photo associated with it. So I'm going to go ahead and not delete the zero and actually make sure that we record that work order. But this particular zero, the earlier scenario, we will go ahead and delete as no information pertaining to the task was submitted. So all I'm going to do is highlight the row, right click, delete. Now this is our actual data set that's been sorted, as you can see previously, right? So now what we'd like to also track is the time that it took to complete any particular task. And as you know, on page 1 of the WUFU form, we asked their time in, and on the third page, we asked them for their time out. So with that said, I don't expect you to remember the formula. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and navigate to yesterday's report in my OneDrive and actually just copy and paste the formula right over, because again, these columns are not changing unless, or the position of the columns are not changing unless we build out the form, which also adds columns, or delete particular sections of the form, which actually creates less columns within the export. So we're going to go ahead and navigate to this tab, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the formula. As you can see, this is the formula. You can either memorize it or you can just copy and paste it from a previous report, again, provided that no changes have been made structurally to the WUFU form. You're going to go ahead and, excuse me for 1 second, you're going to go ahead and copy and paste it to column BT in cell B, in this particular cell BT2. We're going to right click and we're going to do this particular paste option. It must say FX. At that point, we're going to go ahead and copy this again, and we're going to go ahead and translate it down this particular section and do the same thing. As you can see, this is what our fleet agents are reporting, that each of these particular tasks and or WUFU entries are taking from start to finish. And again, it's self-reporting, so there is some room for error, but I would say this data is pretty good. So instead of memorizing these particular worksheets name, all I do is just copy and paste because we are done with the raw data. Now, what we want to do is, because there's so many columns that we really don't need to look at on a day-to-day basis and certainly don't want to overcomplicate our pivot, all we're going to go ahead and do is copy this over to a new worksheet that we can scrub. So all I do is hold the control button and then drag. And as you can see, it created a mirror copy, hence the 2 in brackets. Now we're going to go ahead and rename it Bam, because now we are going to go ahead and scrub it. And by scrub, all I'm doing is I'm minimizing the amount of columns that we are reviewing. Before we go ahead and scrub and eliminate columns, if we start eliminating columns, because it's going to be searching for these values in these particular cells, you must override the formula and paste this information as text. Otherwise, when you delete the columns that the formula is dependent on, it will go ahead and spit out an error message. So as you can see now, when I did that, there is no formula. I just copied and pasted it as a value as opposed to leaving in a dynamic formula, which allows me to go ahead and delete previous columns without that formula spitting out an error message. Okay, we don't need A. We're going to go ahead and delete. We are going to need the market. We're not going to need the names of the information. So we're going to go ahead and now delete B, C, D, E. Delete. We don't need priority level. We're going to go ahead and delete. And then these are all the subtask categories. We're going to keep those and delete everything after, from I and later all the way through column BM. Perfect. So now we have all this information, and that's all we need for the scrubbed PDX SEA worksheet. You're probably asking, well, what happened here? Why does it just say value? As you know, they are entering the time of arrival and their timeout. If the timeout time is earlier than their time of arrival time, the formula is going to be like, whoa, that's a little weird. I can't calculate anything, and I'm just going to say hashtag value exclamation point. So with that said, you are going to see that from time to time because, again, humans are entering this data and mistakes can certainly happen, especially when trying to use the Woohoo form in a mobile setting. No big deal. So we went ahead and scrubbed this, and as you can see, it appears exactly the same on yesterday's report. Now all we're going to do is highlight the data set. We're going to go ahead and say insert. We're going to say pivot table. We're just going to click OK. Do not change any of the settings here. Click OK. And now all of a sudden, it created a new sheet. I'm just going to drag it over to be the last page. Rename it to be summary pivot underscore PDX SEA. Bam. And now, as you can see, when you click on any cell that's not within this box, that menu over here disappears. So let's click on this again. We're going to say select your market, goes into the filter section area. Select task type, goes into the rows area. And then enter license plate number, also appears in the rows area, in this order in particular. And then you will go ahead and drag again the enter license plate number within the values section. And as you can see, this has been created. And you're probably like, wow, 19 tasks. Well, for what markets? As you can see, it says both markets, all. If you just want to see Portland, Oregon, you can just highlight that. Okay. And now, specific out of the 19 tasks, 10 of them were done in Portland, and 9 of them were done in Seattle. So we're going to go ahead and leave it as all. Press OK. Click out. And now we have finished the report. We're just going to save the report using a particular naming convention, here. And please make sure that you do not leave it in this file format. Please make sure you save it in the Excel workbook .xlsx file extension, And all we do is we'll delete this particular portion. We'll do underscore and we'll do the date, and we will hit save. In a separate email, you will get the names of the people that must receive this report on a daily basis. This report is to be created after both work shifts have been completed in both markets, Seattle and Portland. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a better understanding on how to create this report from A to Z.